Welcome to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Coach Sheffer, and we have another great guest today. Today we have Coach Eric Vaughn, the offensive coordinator for Castlewood High School in Castlewood, Virginia, a smaller 1A school here in Virginia. Coach Vaughn, welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're just going to jump right in, Coach. And the first question that I ask every coach that comes onto the podcast is, I want to know about your story because every coach seems to have a pretty unique journey. Could you tell us and the listeners about your football and your coaching journey? Basically, how did you end up where you are now?
So I played through high school. Um, Freshman, sophomore, junior year, I played running back. I came in to be quarterback. I had switched high schools to a better football team, and turned out that the senior quarterback, when I showed up, got hurt, and the sophomore ahead of me took over. And so he started all 3 years, and so I had to wait my turn. So I just played receiver, running back, whatever. And then finally, my senior year, I had a chance to step in at QB, set a lot of records, and got a scholarship to play at East Tennessee State University. And was there for a minute, then transferred to West Virginia State University um, under Carl Lee, who he played for the Vikings, defensive back, Pro Bowler. And it was a smaller D2 school in West Virginia, but it was the best thing that I could have done because where I was a local kid to a D1 program that, if anybody knows the SoCon, ETSU got put on hold for a while because it was just a flop for a minute. And so you were having a lot of SEC guys that were getting cut were coming in. So I just made the decision to transfer because I wanted to play. And when I did, I ended up learning more about the game at that smaller D2 school than I ever could have at the D1, at FCS. I still say D1 AA. It's a habit I can't break. But yeah, it was a great experience. I left there, and I'm 5'11" on a good day, and I carry a chip on my shoulder for that. So I had no like ambitions of going to the league. And this is no way. So I played some arena ball and played in Europe for a while, traveled around, did a lot of work. And the guys that I met playing in Europe, when I stopped playing in 2006, was the last year that I played, professional ball. I started working with teams overseas because the guys I had played with, at the time, NFL Europe was still a thing when I was over there. And when NFL Europe pulled out, now you have the GFL, the Polish league, the Austrian league that is amazing. Football has grown tremendously. And so I kept working with all of the people that I knew there in building the game, and coached a couple teams overseas, do a lot of consulting with a lot of those guys still. Um, and then I got into coaching high school football. There's a local Christian school down here because I coach in Virginia just across the state line. It's about 45 minutes from my house, 40 to 45 minutes. Um, so in Tennessee, there's a Christian school, really small. And we started making this transition when I came in to help coach from moving. They had been playing 8-man, and when I came in, we transitioned to 11-man. And in '08, we made it to the state championship, the TAACS championship, and lost. '09, same thing, made it and lost. 10 was an off year. And then 11, we started playing a mixture of public schools and private schools 11-man. And so we ended up doing pretty decent that season, entered into we got an invite to play in the NACA. It's National Association of Christian Athletics. It's like a national playoff, and we won our Division 5 national title when we went. So, that's it looks good on a resume, but it wasn't like playing a modern day versus all of those guys. This was you know Christian schools that are on the smaller, way small end, like your normal Christian schools, not the major Catholic schools that are flying guys around the country to play. So um, took some time off of that and got really deep into my career. I'm a non-faculty coach. Started diving into the marketing industry pretty heavy. Traveled the country a lot. Lived in Nashville for a while. Um, then while I was coaching at Tri-Cities Christian, I met a good buddy of mine, Chris Lark, and I had we just met and had talked about trying to coach together at some point. And it was last summer. It was right after my birthday in July. He had accepted, or I seen that he had accepted on Facebook the job at Castlewood. And so I just wrote him and I was like, "Hey, do you need some help? I'd love to coach at the high school level again." And boom, there we are.
That's awesome, Coach. Real quick, what was it like playing over in Europe? My wife has this deep fascination with Europe. Her family background is German, and so she keeps saying, "Oh, we're going to move to Germany one day." What's it like coaching football and playing football over there?
Um, it depends on what level you're at. So when I was there the first time, was with Ryan Fire, which was NFL Europe. So of course that was, you know, good money, major professional deal. When I went back the second time was when the GFL was really coming of age, and I played for Longenfeld Longhorns, which is um, kind of just a really nice small town outside of Dusseldorf. So you're talking about just on the outskirts of a population, maybe 1.5 million or so. I can't, don't quote me, anyone that it's been forever since I was there, but that was fun because it was a mixture of guys who got paid to play, guys who had played in clubs growing up in the American football camps and stuff that had gotten started because of NFL Europe and the World League when it existed. And so it was very interesting. Football probably like a D3 level. Um, I think it's getting a little bit better. Now that we actually have seen someone from the GFL get signed to the NFL. Um, and I can't remember if there's anyone else that has, but there's several guys, that they're recruiting for college from overseas now. So it's becoming more commonplace. Um, and that was kind of the goal whenever I started working with the coaches that I did and the people that I had played with who stuck around. I've got a good friend, uh, that his name's Luke. He's Canadian, but he grew up and he went to high school or their equivalent in Canada, played some in the States, and then went over there, and he still lives there. I mean, he's a permanent, a dual citizen in Poland. The last time I heard from him, about 2 years ago. So some guys just chose to stay over there, and I'll tell you this, man, it is absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, I still would love to take my wife over and just visit some of the places that I played, some of the places I used to hang out. Some of the, like in Longenfeld, you have the uh, paved the stone streets, and it's just riding a bike around. It was just some of the best memories that I have of football, just because it was so out of my element when I was there. Um, so it was amazing. and if anyone can do it, um, do it. The friendships you make, you never know where they're going to lead. Some of the stuff that I made friends through football overseas, actually helped with some of the agencies that I was working with in marketing on some international stuff that we worked. And you just never know. The more people you know, the better off you are.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been to Europe one time. It was right after I got married, and my mother-in-law paid for the trip. Uh, not a lot of coaches, not a lot of men can say that their mother-in-law paid for them to go to Europe.
Yeah.
Uh, but we went to Austria, Vienna, Austria, and
Yes.
it's gorgeous.
Yep.
Uh, if you can get over the fact that I'm a country boy, I like rural areas, but
Hmm.
you know, the history in Europe, it's just so deep. And going to be able to visit, like you walk five minutes that way, there's an old palace. You walk 5 more minutes that way, there's another palace. Royalty everywhere. It was amazing. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't able to see any football while I was there because we were busy, doing tourist things. But um, I would, if I had the opportunity to do it and I had the money, I'd probably try it. But I don't know. We'll see. You never know what the future
Well,
holds, right?
it's it's an experience, that's for sure. I don't know how with COVID how things are going and what it looks like over there. I'm not, because I haven't really talked to much of anyone overseas and since this started really. Um, so I don't know when that will start back up or what teams will be looking for someone, but you know,
Who knows what the future holds?
yeah.
The next question is another one that I ask pretty much everybody. I've been doing like this deep during COVID. I've been doing a deep dive into different subjects, and leadership and culture is one of those subjects. Um, could you take a moment to describe your own personal leadership style as a coach?
Um, I am a very passionate person. I think that's probably the best way to describe my personality. I'm very system oriented, very process driven. I read an amazing book um, maybe a year ago. I can't remember. Um, but it was James Clear as the author, Atomic Habits. And there's a line in that book that I have just pretty much claimed as my own. And it says that you'll never rise to the level of your goals. You'll always fall to the level of your systems. And so what he's talking about in his book kind of is the same thing that I teach from a coaching standpoint. It Everything has to make sense. Everything has to have, but I'm wing T minded, so it's one of those things where everything has to have if then, right? And if you have an offense, whatever you want to call your offense or your system or whatever, um, if you don't have answers, it's really hard to get the buy-in from the kids, right? Because now it's a lot different. Like I remember playing in high school, and there were a lot of times where we just ran plays. I never thought why are we running these plays? It would get run in, I'd call it in the huddle, we'd break, we'd run the play, and then that I never thought about it. I am much more the kind that gets the kids to understand the why. And if they understand the why, the buy-in from them is a whole lot more, and the effort uh, doubles, exponentially grows, because if they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, it becomes different than, well, he just told me to block down on this guy and, whatever. So I I don't know. That's one of the struggles that I had, um, because you had sent the list of questions that you would ask, and I couldn't think of it, because I'm not any kind of great, uh, you know, 100 win coach or this or that. I've been around and done a lot of things at different levels, but it's one of those deals where when you try to define how you are and what your style is, for me, it's, I guess, just process is the biggest thing for me.
All right. I mean, I I understand, Coach, because I'm not somebody who has, you know, a million followers or has had years and years and years of sustained success either. So it was hard for me to try and. This was a question that my head coach asked me when he was interviewing me for the job, and I didn't have an answer for him at that time because it was something when I was a little younger I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
Right? I thought, oh, I'm just a position coach. I'm not the leader on the squad, and but the more research I do and the older I get, the I would say the more knowledgeable I get. I know I don't know everything, but everyone is a leader in some way, even
Mhm.
the position coaches. And so eventually I told him, I was like, look, I'm not the coach you're going to look for on a Friday night to give a fiery speech. That's not me. But I'm the coach that will be on the sideline with my arm around a kid's shoulder, talking to him. And like if Coach Molinax, our head coach, is yelling at him at practice, I'll come over and be like, "Do you understand why he's yelling at you? Understand why he wants you to do this?" That's the kind of that's how I
Yeah.
would have answered it. But I'd completely agree with you with what you were saying there. Now, you mentioned Wing T, all right, and when I look on your Twitter page, you're a avid Wing T fan and also an Air Raid fan, and you run something called the WingRaid offense.
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us the story behind the WingRaid offense? Because when I think Wing T and Air Raid, I don't necessarily think about meshing them together. So, what's the
S-
story behind that?
So I absolutely love wing T football. Okay. Um, I also absolutely love the air raid because, and I made a statement, not too long ago on somebody's post, and it got a little love, but I literally said the wing T and the air raid are identical, like their philosophy is identical, and I will die on that hill. I will. And some guys from the wing T camp, whoa, no, 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 no. But it literally is. It is built off if then. We just count the box, they count the shell, right? So what coverage shell is it? How are they rotating? How are they rolling? What are they doing? Blah blah blah. All that stuff. That's all. That's the only difference. They count secondary. We count the box, and that's it. And the wing raid really was born. Um, I worked with a team that was there was a league that was going to be funded, um, and it wasn't the XFL or anything like that. It was like a spin off of that was kind of a tier lower, and I had just a really good set of guys that we had recruited from different colleges. A lot of FCS guys, D2 guys, um, and pulled in a couple of arena guys that were playing. One of them was a really good buddy of mine that I had worked with. He's a real good kid. He's actually the defensive coordinator now at another high school, but he was gonna play quarterback because he had just come off of an MVP and um, an All-Star MVP performance in the league, and I knew that I couldn't run wing T, so it was my shot to really just let loose on a lot of the air raid stuff that I had studied and had ran a little bit here and there and had tinkered with. And then when I found this mesh of how to manipulate and still have, trips to one side, but still keep the tight end in the wing and this and that, and twins with, a heavy side wing and tight end the other way, like, Pat Murphy, Kenny Simpson, all of them. um, was just one of those things where I was like, man, this is a really nice blend. And so I was sitting around one day and it was like wing tee, air raid, wing raid, and had this idea, being a marketing guy, I was like, I'm going to throw a logo on it. Right. And I'm going to make it look cool. And, it's just one of those things. And, um, for some reason here lately, I've been getting a lot of messages and guys asking me, well, how do you do this? And how are you wing tee, but you're still getting, these concepts ran, and what are you doing? And so I show them and whatever. And it was part of the reason that I wanted to start the podcast is when you have wing tee guys like Roger Holmes and all of those guys that are just iconic that could teach me so much. So just, the whole thing of just sitting down to talk to them that way was the whole part of that. And also, being able to kind of give some guys a hard time like Ron Mackey, you know, comment on a lot of his stuff with some wing tee things and just, rock the boat a little bit. But yeah, that's how the WingRaid came about. It was me taking two things that I seen as a process system guy that are identical, but the people in both camps just never could agree on that. Um, but I'll still, to this day, I'll die on that hill. They're philosophically the same exact offense. One just likes to move it in the air. One likes to move it on the ground.
I agree with you, and I remember, I can't remember who it was, but I remember there was a higher up coach in the higher echelons who said something along that lines. Who said the wing tee, air raid, air raid triple option, they're basically the same thing. They basically run the if then concept
Mm-hmm.
and philosophy. It's just one throws the ball, the
Yep.
other runs the ball, and that's it. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the coaches in each camp might not necessarily see that, but I definitely get what you're saying. So I'm definitely a wing tee fan. So it's not, I'm not someone you have to sell that on. We ran it in my high school, and I've had some good experiences with the wing tee. It's something that I've done lots of deep dives into. Um, but I will say, even especially in the coaching community and in the community of like parents, it's a lot harder nowadays to sell the wing tee offense.
Mm-hmm.
um, so how do you sell your offense to the players and the parents of your program?
Well, fortunately, at Castlewood, I haven't had to really sell anything. They've been extremely supportive, and so uh, there, the head coach Chris Lark that have been friends with, and he brought me in to be offensive coordinator. He's a single wing guy, so I had to turn the wing raid last season into the single wing T, and so that was pretty fun. We went 6-4 in the regular season. Two of those games we lost to teams that made it to quarter and semifinals. And then the other two games that we lost, we fumbled 5 times in one and I think 6 in another, or 5 times in both, and then an interception in the other. There were 6 turnovers in one and 5 in the other. Long story short, it was a complete, 180 from what the program had been. So the number one rule in selling a system to the parents and the fans and the kids is to win ball games. That's I know that seems kind of snarky, but that is 100% fact. We beat 2 teams that they had not beat since the 80s. And those are 2 teams in the county, right? So it was just a big year for Castlewood. And it was really funny because you asked me what kind of coach I am. And, uh, like I said, he took the job in July. I got board approved at the end of July, somewhere around there. So we had like just a few weeks to install, all this stuff for them. And, so they didn't get to see the cool, calm, collected, let's talk this out and let's, discover why we're doing this. It was learn all of this and then I'll explain why after we play week one. Right. So it was that kind of thing. And I was so super excited to go into season 2 with them. Um, and being able to take that off season, springtime, because you don't have spring ball in Virginia like some other states. But to go into the weight room with them and draw everything up, have the film study, have all this stuff, and then COVID hits, and then now we're going to have 2 weeks to prepare for game one in January, February, whenever. Or our games in February, but whenever they allow us to, actually hold practice, because our county still won't let us touch a football. I know some counties are different. So yeah, it's frustrating. So selling it, number one, is probably winning games. Number two thing that you do to sell it is you make up a really cool name like WingRaid, so that they don't really pay attention to the wing tee part. They just, say, hey, we're going to run the ball out of these sets and we're going to throw it around a little bit, and then, they can get excited. And, so if you don't want them thinking that you're running the wing tee, you just call it the WingRaid, and makes everybody happy.
Yeah, I remember distinctly early on. I'm talking about Coach Simpson, Coach Kenny Simpson. He's the guy who does the gun T
Yep.
RPO system.
Yeah.
He hadn't quite had a name for it yet. Um, like he knew what it was. It was a shotgun wing T that
Mm-hmm.
had a couple RPOs, and he was talking about like, well, what kind of name should I do it this? And it was like wing T, this, or should I be like, power spread RPO? And me, I'm like, if you want to sell it, you got to put the RPO in there, right?
Yeah.
If you run, if you, even if it's just one RPO and it's, an RPO, you got to sell it
Mm-hmm.
and make it look like, because that's what the kids see nowadays. That's what the parents see nowadays. So I agree with you. Giving
Yeah.
it a cool name, that will definitely help. All right. You said you have your playbook ready.
Well, what parts do you want to go over? Because I don't want to dredge through this whole thing, and just talk about everything.
Okay.
Is there a specific part that you would like? Because I didn't send it to you ahead of time, which is probably, mistake one over here. But
Maybe maybe some formation stuff. If maybe a
yeah,
little passing game or something like that. Formation. I love formations. I'm a big glutton for formations.
all right.
So
So
you
let's
should be
see.
able to share your screen.
All right.
Yeah, that does look nice, Coach.
Well, it doesn't hurt that I've been in marketing for a while and pretty savvy with the Photoshop and Illustrator and all that stuff. So the team that you see in the background in white is Castlewood. That's
Okay.
us. Actually lined up in our single wing formation there, which it looks like the shotgun wing tee, but I wanted to keep it in this presentation in case one of them seen it, because they were pretty pumped that they were going to be mentioned on the podcast. So I will talk about this, and I know that kind of jumps out at you for the second slide, but I don't know. I mean, are you familiar with firearms? I mean,
A little bit.
all right. So
Yeah.
one of the things that my mom was going to get a handgun for her to carry when she got her concealed carry, right? And we were talking to the guy, because I went with her, and we were talking to the guy about what she should buy, and she was looking at like this little smaller pistol, right, that she thought would be not too heavy, whatever. And he was like, well, what are you carrying this for? And she said, for personal protection, whatever. And he said, no, you don't want to carry that. The safest thing for you to carry is a revolver. And so I looked at him and I was like, what? And he was like, well, if there's a misfire, you hear him talk about tap and rack, like hit the magazine and, pull back and rack the gun and all that stuff. And, there's like a process of all these things that could go wrong. He said, if you pull the trigger on a revolver and it doesn't fire, you just it as a revolver, especially when you're in series based stuff like Wing T and Air Raid. If you are going for mesh and they drop 8 and something happens, what you got to do the next time. Or if they roll down with motion, what's coming next, right? What you're going to call. Same thing with Wing T. If the backside inside linebacker makes the tackle on Buck, Chris Cross is coming. That's what you should call. So it was one of those things where, and especially for our Castlewood team going into this year, we had a lot of success on the offensive side, but there were still times where we got backed up against the wall and we kind of just shut down. We if something didn't work, it was that momentary lapse of defeat, right? And so is one of the things that I wanted to stress to them this year. And I've talked about this with teams in the past, but this year specifically, make sure that you think of this offense, think of what you're doing as a revolver. If we get stuffed for 1 yard gain or a 1 yard loss, you have been taught the series enough to know what's coming next. So that's just kind of the mindset of what that is. For me, I line pistol.
Okay.
Um, and then I've got several variations. If I want to run jet stuff, I can still run the trap with the F off of that. If I go right wing, I just call it pistol right wing. There's nothing big about that. Over just flips the tackle and the tight end. But if I want to go right wing over, I just call it Ringo or Lingo, right? So if you want to go pistol lingo, it's left wing over. Right is right wing over. And then heavy brings that halfback over so that we can get a really good strong side run game or run a quarterback buck sweep with double lead, because we are, at Castlewood at least, um, really big on our single wing stuff as well. So our gun formations are twins, the standard stuff from Pat Murphy when he really started making that move from wing T under center to the gun. I don't. Have you watched any of his old stuff, Pat Murphy? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, wasn't he was the guy in Montana?
Yeah,
Or
that
yeah.
just
Mhm.
racked up state
Yeah.
championship after. It was ridiculous. So years ago, I reached out to him when I seen this stuff on YouTube for the first time, and I found him through someone on the Coach Huey board, right? And they just hooked me up with an email. I hit him up and I was like, hey, I can't make it to the clinics you're at. I'm super interested in what you're doing. And he sent me the stuff. And that's kind of where I started evolving what I was doing based on what I
You there, Coach?
Uh, yeah. What happened?
I have no idea. Um,
Oh,
I don't know if I got disconnected or you did. I don't know which side it was on. It might have been me.
uh,
Um,
you want me to reshare?
yeah, if you can. The where we were on. And I,
Twins.
we were on Twins. Yep, talking about Coach Murphy.
Okay. How, what was the last thing that you? Okay. Well, let me erase this then, because I just kept on talking.
The last thing I remember hearing before you got cut off was you were able to reach out to him through Coach Huey.
Yeah. So somebody on Coach Huey board hooked me up with an email. Got through to him and said, "Hey, I can't make it to any of the clinics that you're talking at." He had done a couple of clinics there before I think he went to a smaller college and coached after he left Capital. But anyways, he sent me a bunch of stuff, and that Twins is where I started developing the WingRaid, because then I started thinking about, okay, I can throw the ball still, but still have a really good solid run game, and I never taught it this way until I heard Kenny talk about it, Coach Simpson, whenever he talked about the split field. Uh, and now that's one of the big things that I stress to my guys, is making sure they understand what we're trying to do to the defense. So the twins snug, the stack, that's something that I like to use whenever the inverted guy down here, the strong safety or the back or whatever, starts getting, pretty sneaky on trying to chase down Buck, or on our belly ISO tries to get active in making the tackle. I'll call stack, and if he doesn't play it, we'll throw it now. But if he does roll out, right, and they bracket that, then now we're open back inside. So it's just a simple little thing of, you make a move, I make a move, you make a move, I make a move.
Awesome.
I call this ace. It's just, regular one back. And only reason I call it ace is that it's 1-by-1 for me. So it's not a big deal as to why it's ace. It's just one on each side. So ace, and then snug. This I like to have in so that I can do a quick jet motion and actually run jet and pin the 5 technique
Okay.
and block out here, but also fake that jet, drop step, come under, and run buck again. So it's just another way to kind of dress up things a little bit. And then trips over for me and for us is just, it's just twins over, and it's the Y is on the weak side, on the quick side, and then empty just moves the F as out, or the T is out on the other wing.
So
It's
do you run any like QB buck or anything like that out of empty or
I would like to this year, possibly. We've got a kid coming back who's going to be a junior, who was an all conference defensive back as a sophomore. So I mean,
okay.
he's athletic and he's been in the weight room just killing it, right? And so I'm super excited to see what he can do. But at the same time, we've got a kid who rushed for like 340 yards, 350 yards in one of the games last year, for returning as a senior. So I mean, this year's going to be a good year if we
Mhm.
stay healthy and everything is good. And I know it's weird playing in February, but it is what it is. But I think if we stay healthy, everything goes good, there's no COVID incidents or whatever the protocols are at that time, I think we're going to be all right.
Mhm.
Um, so you wanted to look at some of the past game stuff. And then there's the big formation. So I'll
Nice.
just try to scroll through this. This is the entire playbook. pretty
Okay.
much. And, you've got these are the same, these are the same, these two are the same. And I've been talking to one coach in North Carolina who's doing workouts right now. Um, oh my gosh, what's his name? Yeah, Weathersby, Coach Weathersby. And he's working on some Joker motion stuff out of the pistol sets with that slot out of twins to be able to run a version of shotgun down is what I'm looking at, because it's really, if you know down series, it's the really quick kind of almost like an outside veer,
Hmm.
uh, you know, look to the defense, and you can give that option look with the halfback coming in motion, or you can, go with red blue traditional, or what we would call right wing, and motion through and run down. But it's very difficult to run down out of the gun because it just doesn't hit as fast. So there's some things I'm working on to get that there, but I'll go in and show you some of this right here,
Okay.
because I think that's probably a little bit more exciting than me going over everything. And just, the way that I build my playbooks is color coded.
Hmm.
Um, so that, and I know that um, I didn't never get to meet him, but I talked to him quite a bit. And so I carried the inside wall and outside wall for Coach Brankin. I don't know if you ever seen any of his stuff. So, just to pay tribute to him, I carry the inside wall and outside wall and tunnel. So the walls and tunnels, as he used to call it. So, but I color code everything so that the linemen understand if I'm a gold color, I'm inside wall. If I'm black, I'm outside wall. If I'm blue, I'm cut off, inside rip cut off. And so, that way everything purple is always the quote quarterback
Hmm.
and his path, and then green is the ball carrier. So it's kind of how I do the playbooks to give to the kids so that they understand. So I'm going to scroll down, get through this.
Got to get to the air raid stuff.
Yeah. So, um, so one thing that I do is even in my passing stuff, like for this over series, right? If they hear over, um, and not all of this stuff gets installed every year. It depends on who we have. Um, but so if we go over, it's the motion that's like jet, and it's just flashing across the quarterback to get us into trips, and that's all it is, right? So it's, and you can sometimes in certain situations I'll call it hover motion because it's H over, so we'll call it hover snag. So it'd be twins left snug hover smash or hover snag is pretty much what this is. But over series is H coming over to make trips. And so we're running snag, and I call 1-to-1 because, that's your read. Does he fly out with the arrow? Then throw the snag. If he sits, throw the arrow. If they both get covered, then the corner's open, right? So there's nothing new or nothing crazy there. But yeah, that's flood and verts. And for me, when I run verts, I like for my guy in motion to come flat and then push straight up the field, because we never see cover two. If we see cover two, we're going to rush for probably 300 yards that night. It's just one of those things. So even if I go twins or whatever, it doesn't matter. If I go empty trips, like in the empty that you've seen up there, where it's trips with a wing, I
Mhm.
still never get cover two. I mean, even last year, nobody gave us cover two. Um, so again, so now this is one of those things where It just depends on the kids you got at your school. We're the smaller school. Castlewood's, I think, 300, 350 kids. So it's slim pickings for who we put where. And this kid right here, um, most likely next year will be a kid who started linebacker for us as a freshman, about 6'1", 6'2", like 200 pounds, you know. And I mean, when he played, I think he played as a freshman at 6'1", 195 or 190-ish, and then he's just hit the weights and is a beast. The only thing I'm waiting on is to see if he can catch. So that's about it.
He could probably block, at least that.
Well, that's the big thing that I'm worried about. But I think he's going to be a really good athlete because he's just going to be a sophomore. I mean, he is doing really well, doing all the right things. But again, it's the same thing that I teach. And here's the biggest thing, right? My snag, 1-to-1, right? Arrow and snag. Same thing on here, 1-to-1, arrow and snag, with 2 being here. And this is always your gift, right? There's always the gift. For me, I'm not an R4 guy. I know the system. Never became certified in it or anything. If I am in a place where I can coach on a more of the air raid side, I kind of use my own version of it. I'll do handout, hit, hitch, help, or handout, hot, hit, hitch, help. Right. So you have your handouts, your gift, your hot is your blitz, your hit is your pretty much your rhythm, your hitch is your first hitch, and then your help is your get out and dump it off or throw it away. And that's the progression. And that's just the way that I teach it. And I love all of those guys that are knowledgeable in that. But I like the way that they have. I heard him on the Run the Power podcast when they were talking about how the R4 and what he's doing to for game planning, the way that they're trying to evolve that was really, really good. So, but for me, flood, I always like number 2 to hit the arrow. That way I can get a definite read, and I don't have anybody getting jammed up. And the mesh, I run mesh with the speed out is the gift, and then I go 1, 2, 3 across the field.
Okay.
And I run that middle sit. Not a lot of guys will do that, but it tends to open up a lot more than it doesn't. So, again, I don't think this year we'll be running a lot of this because we're still evolving out of the single wing tee. So we're not to the WingRaid yet at Castlewood, but we're getting there. So, and then I run Y cross this way, the USOM under Sam over Mike at 10 to 12 with a dig on the backside. And the gift is if, he falls down or whatever, you throw that fade now, but then you start your progression cross to dig to the out.
What kind of what's your go-to pass protection? Since I'm an O-line coach, so I'm always asking that. But
I have tried all kinds of different things. For me, I just teach an aggressive block, right? Because we're so much in the run that I know that you being an O-line coach have seen every one of these, somebody's pulling. Because what we face, if I get a pull, one of them's getting influenced.
right.
And especially like on mesh and shallow, if we throw those, that does a really, 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 like, for that dig to hit is a big deal for us, because I can't tell you how many times last year, as we were evolving from our base single wing install into some of the wing T stuff that we started running, how many times that we had a free safety standing at like 8 yards. So the ability to get him out, drive off the tight end, and then run that dig is a big deal for us because it just, anything to get him to backpedal
Mhm.
is going to help us in the run game. When coaches can take their free safety and start to put him in the run fits, you got to do something to get a hold of the situation. So, but anyways, and again, I like for my first guy to cross the face of the safety, and that H, the wing, is just a delay
Mhm.
fade up the seam. So, and for me, um, when I run verts, the outside guy, I like to run the fade stop
Okay.
at 10 because I want it to be a really hard, flat outside push to get that corner on width. I want width first, then the 10, just so that we have a huge alley because, again, we don't see cover two. And I don't know that anyone would ever play a cover two shell on us.
If you start throwing the ball a little bit, they might try it. Then you just run the ball again. Hey, wing T, I
Yeah,
know, you know.
yeah, yeah. If I start throwing the ball, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how that works. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, um, how all this works for us. And uh, I stopped on this play. This is a play that I have not ran yet anywhere. Um, but I was in the pistol wing T group with Hansel Phipps.
Okay.
Um, he coaches at Wake Forest High School in North Carolina, and I think they've won a couple of state championships, maybe 4. But he runs pistol wing T, and he ran this. He ran this jet shuttle pass where but he did his out of pistol, and so I've got it in our pistol jet as well. But I'm excited to run this because you get a full GT counter with it, and it's a forward pass in the backfield. So it's kind of it's that fake jet, and then your quarterback kind of rolls out. This will be one of those that eventually I'll have to get some huddle clips and post up on Twitter for the guys. But that right there, I'm super excited about that play.
Mhm. It looks like it's going to be dirty.
Yeah, especially for us, we've got a kid returning as a senior, um, who as a junior, no, sorry, hold on, as a sophomore, I can't remember. He was the fastest kid in the region in the district as a sophomore. Last year, he was a big hitter for us, and now he's going to be a senior playing in that wing position. So that jet threat is going to be something that I'm really going to use to manipulate some of the box this year. And so that play, I'm hoping we can hit some home runs on that one. So,
All
but yeah,
right.
that's the kind of the wing raid in a nutshell.
Well, awesome, coach. This has been awesome. Since this is the first time I've had anybody share their screen on the podcast. Hopefully, I can do it again soon, and hopefully, maybe you'd be able to come on as a guest again sometime soon.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and you are starting your own podcast coming up. So, did you want to, kind of promote yourself a little bit there before we go?
Um, I wasn't going to because this is your podcast, so
Yeah.
but it's going to be called the Wing T War Room. Um, I somebody had posted a question in one of the groups, and kind of just replied, "Hey, I've bought a mic and some other things, and I'm thinking about starting something up. And what if I just did one that was focused on all of us wing T guys, give us something to talk about?" And so everybody loved the idea. Had quite a few guys reach out, and probably the biggest surprise is Coach Mackey actually said that he would like to come on and do an episode where we compare the similarities of the wing tee and the air raid. So it's not technically a wing tee coach, but it'd be good. I think a good fun talk to have. He's always a character and cuts up, so I'm pretty sure that'll be fun. And but yeah, I'll plug this podcast for sure because I appreciate you letting me come on.
Yeah, no problem, Coach. I appreciate you. I appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. And hopefully, maybe we could collaborate again in the future.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been Coach Sheffer, and we are signing off.